There were many witnesses to the events that took place on that hill outside Jerusalem nearly 2,000 years ago. An angry crowd gathered to be certain that their verdict of guilty be carried out in the sentence of death by crucifixion. A small group of the condemned man's followers wandered about the crowd, still in shock over the injustice being carried out, many of them keeping their identity secret to protect themselves from a similar fate. Some had to be there, those responsible for the pretending to the necessary tasks that went along with an execution. But there were other witnesses there as well. Witnesses we don't usually think about, although vague, were even closer to the events than the crowd. In fact, they actually participated in those events in unique ways. They were the silent witnesses. If only these things could speak, what might they say? They tell us about the events from their viewpoint. Throughout this Lenten season, we will be given the opportunity to hear them.
Excuse me, I wonder if you could give me just a few minutes of your time. I feel a little silly talking to a thorn. Yet, if we were to have a complete picture of what happened here, we can't overlook any sources. I understand that you witnessed some unusual happenings concerning the one called Jesus of Nazareth. Is that true? Would you mind telling us your impressions of what took place?
Hello. I'm not really used to this kind of talking, especially in front of people. But since I have been asked to give you some information about myself and how I happened to witness the death of Jesus, well, it was terrible. I just can't imagine how humans could treat one another. Human being that way. Could treat another human being that way.
Please, just relate the story to us. Perhaps you could begin by telling us about yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of my story. Well, I am definitely not considered to be popular. In fact, I am often considered to be a pain. The only time people seem to want to find me is that they can cut me down and burn me. The general opinion is that I and my kind are worthless and have no real purpose for living.
Come on now, we all have a purpose. We weren't created just to be. We were given life for a purpose.
I have to confess that according to these standards of others, I'm not what you call desirable. There are other plants that have a beauty I wish I had. They are fragrant and pleasing to the senses. I just kind of stick out like the proverbial sore thumb. I'm bare, pointed, grow every which way, and look like a haystack in a tornado. And to add insult to injury, I'm not useful either.
Useful?
I don't make the countryside no pretty. I'm not even good food for animals. In fact, the animals try to avoid me. I often cause them pain and possible infection. But for you that, I am worth it. No one cares about me. People take my name away if they speak of me at all. And someone wants to describe a person as being ugly, they call them a thorn among the roses. Or if someone has a nagging problem, they say that they have a thorn in their side. Now with that kind of image, how can I be expected to consider myself worth anything at all? Would you be depressed too?
My lad, you really are down, aren't you? But please, just tell us what happened.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start from the beginning. I was just hanging around on the vines, cutting the gentle breeze as it drew a Viking, when I noticed some soldiers coming across here toward me. I saw them draw their swords as they got closer. Oh no, this is it, I thought. Today is the last day of what used to be the rest of my life. I was right. They had chopped and cut many of the vines down. The branch I was on was one of those cut and carried back to the barracks. I was surprised they had just said fled to us in the field. That's what people usually get. No, I was surprised that they hadn't just said right to us. That's what people usually get. They have something special in mind for it.
Something special.
In a scene, I remember was that someone was taking the branches that held us and was twisting them into a circle. We were being woven and wrapped in and out, and I was getting dizzy. What really struck me as odd was that these swords were actually working together for a change, instead of each one pointing and going its own way. We were still a bit disorganized, but at least we formed a circle.
Was anything said while this was taking place?
As the men were working, I heard one of them say that they were making a plow. I looked around and saw no one making anything that looked like what I understood a fine plow to be. With shoes and gold and beautiful shape, the closest thing to a crown sheet was, wait a minute, you don't think that they were shaping us into a circle in order to make the crown out of us so-called mean and hustling swords, do you? No, that's a shrug one. But that's exactly what they were doing. I think they've been in the hot sun too long. But they were serious. They were shaping us into a crown.
What happened then?
When they finished, the soldiers took their brutal attempt at crown making and carried us into courtyard. Wow! Can you imagine what it was like in the going through wilds? Here I am, a poor, hated crown, being made into a crown and taken right into the middle of the most important government building in the city. Now that's something to make you sit up and take notice.
What did you notice?
I stretched as far as I could to get a good look at what was going on. It was hard for me to see, since I had ended up on the bottom of the farm, pointing down. That's always the case, on the bottom and in the wrong direction. That's the story of my life. Oh well, at least I was part of a farm.
But what did you see when they carried you in?
I was able to see a large crowd gathered in the courtyard. My guess was that some king, or governor, or prince, or somebody really important was going to be crowned with this. I mean, with us. Now, wait a minute. Don't you find this a bit unusual?
It's more than unusual. It's bizarre. But please go on.
The soldiers carried us into the very center of the courtyard. All eyes were on us. I couldn't see anyone who looked like a king or prince. In fact, the other one who even caught my attention was a traveling preacher who was on trial for blasphemy. I had heard those making the crown say they thought he was innocent, but that he didn't stand a chance of getting a fair trial. They said he needed to be taken care of, whatever that meant. Anyway, we were brought over to the preacher, and as we got closer, I had a strange feeling come over me. I can't explain it, but I know I felt it. Here I had to cut down, twist it, and bend, and I should be getting weaker and weaker since my roots were back there in the field. But I was feeling stronger and better instead of weaker and worse.
How do you explain that?
I hadn't understood any of this so far, so why try now? Two soldiers took us carefully in their heads and held us high for all to see. Some other soldiers put a very fine roll on the accused preacher, and they all laughed and made fun of him. Would you believe? Some even spat on it. I mean to tell you, people hate us soys, but no one ever spat on me. Then soldiers hurried us, moved us toward the head of the Melon triad, and they began to set us on the scale. I couldn't help but say, but they really needed to be careful.
Careful?
After all, if he set us down too hard, he might scratch and hurt him.
Oh,
Now remember, I'm on the bottom of the crowd, and I would see us getting closer and closer to the scale. I wished I had some brakes or could slow us down so we wouldn't hit his head hard and hurt him. I got a glimpse of his eyes as we were being lifted by his face.
his eyes?
They showed a love and care that made me want to care about her. And well, if someone could love them, the least I could do was try not to hurt us. But I had no control over the situation. The men brutally shoved us onto the head of the innocent victim. We swords were pushed into his scalp with a sense of hatred and ridicule, driving the crowd deeper and deeper. How could they do this? How could men be so cruel to someone who showed only love in his eyes? In that split instant when I was forced into his foyer, I went through more emotions than any foreign has ever experienced. After the initial horror and disgust that I felt toward those who used me in this inhumane way, I went through a change of feelings, a change in character and being.
I'm not really sure I know what you need.
I told you how horrible it was to realize that I was inflicting pain on that innocent boy, and that I had personally hurt him and caused him to bleed.
Yes?
And yet, it's impossible to describe what else I felt. But let me try. As the crown was being placed on his head, remember now I was on the bottom of the crown. I was one of the first swords to touch his sledge. At that instant there was the feeling that shot through me that is beyond anything I ever felt before. There was a sense of life and living that surpassed even being attached to my roots in the field. It was different and new light flowing around me. It caused me to feel warm and soft. Now imagine that, a harsh, sharp, wretched thorn feeling warm and soft. It wasn't my natural way. It was beyond the natural way. It was something that came from him to me. Here I was inflicting pain on him, and he was causing warmth, love, and peace of mind to flow into me at the same time. That simply doesn't make sense.
How bizarre.
How wonderful. He returned love for pain. He gave warmth in a blizzard of hatred. He poured out his blood of suffering in order to walk across his thorn like me. What kind of a man was this? He was not like the other men. and He caused me to be unlike the other thorns. How blessed I am when to be able to touch the flesh of such a person. How thankful I am that my natural sharpness, stiffness, and restlessness were transformed into warmth, comfort, softness, and immeasurable value by Heaven. I didn't deserve any of these gifts.
Yes?
Well, that's what mattered. At least that's the way I witnessed it. But I can't tell you all of this without making one last comment.
Please, we're anxious to hear what else you have to say.
I envy you humans. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm thankful and content with my role. But oh, how blessed you are. I know now that the same blood that spilled onto me has washed all of you and changes all of you who simply receive your undeserved gift. How blessed you are that you are invited to live here forever. Imagine an eternity to experience what I had for just a few moments. You see, He did all of that. Let it all happen for you. If the Lord could pray, I pray that you will discover that and never forget it. Oh,
And thank you for your testimony.
oh, by the way, if you find these cases difficult to believe, let me ask you one question. Have you ever noticed that some thorn bushes have roses on them?